Election Commission has been conducting voter education programs in an effort to minimize invalid votes in the upcoming elections. Despite the Commission allocating 500 million rupees for voter education for the nearing polls, its efforts has not been effective. Good morning, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. Political parties exhibit dual character while preparing plans and achieving targets. Candidates and leaders deceiving the public with far-fetched agendas ahead of the polls. Government employees assigned to conduct election in rural district reaching voting centres. Efforts to provide voters education yet to be effective. Risk of rise in invalid votes still persists. Ukrainian officials warn the war is not over after Russia's withdrawal from Kherson. Celebrations continue over the weekend. And Pakistan take on England in the ICC 2020 Cricket World Cup final this afternoon. Asian outfit aim to mirror success of 1992 ODI World Cup finals in Melbourne. The trend of political parties providing assurances as the election gets closer has remained intact. Political leaders have been deceiving the general public with far-fetched agendas while they have previously failed to implement them. The political parties have pledged to attain various goals within 5 years, which would normally take 25 years to achieve. 1,700 megawatts of electricity is being produced in the country at the moment. The country has a target of generating 5,820 megawatts of electricity as per the ongoing 5-year plan that ends in the fiscal year 2080-81. The government that was able to generate only 450 megawatts of electricity in the past 4 years has to now generate 4,120 megawatts within a year to attain its goal. All the major parties were in the government in the past 5 years. These parties, meanwhile, have been announcing to generate up to 10,000 megawatts of electricity within the next 5 years as the November 20 polls inch closer. The political parties, however, have been providing assurances of generating up to 5,000 megawatts of electricity without any study. The government has a target of increasing the per capita income to $1,595 by the end of the current 15th 5-year plan and up to $12,100 in the next 2 decades. The political parties' pledges of economic growth, poverty alleviation, increased life expectancy, education, health, among other targets also seem unrealistic. The government employees assigned to conduct elections in rural districts have started leaving for the voting centres there from yesterday. The employees have started to leave for the rural districts along with election materials and security forces. The Election Commission has been preparing to station necessary workforce and materials in the rural areas prior to the eve of 17th of November. Meanwhile, in the remaining districts, voting officers are being trained. The Election Commission has further informed that election materials that have been transported to the offices of the Chief Election Officers are being prepared to be transported to voting centres. The Commission has transported 57 types of materials along with ballot papers in districts. Meanwhile, the Chief Election Officers and election officers of all the districts have been monitoring the implementation of the Election Code of Conduct in their areas. Discussions have been held time and again on the importance of voter education. The Election Commission prints materials required for voter education and transports them to the rural areas. Likewise, volunteers are mobilized to teach proper voting methods to the voters. The Election Commission has allocated 500 million rupees for voter education for the upcoming November 20 elections. However, the Commission's effort to provide voter education is yet to be effective. Around 3% invalid votes were recorded in the local level election earlier this year as door-to-door campaigns to educate voters were not conducted. The Election Commission has been conducting voter education programs in an effort to minimize invalid votes in the upcoming provincial and parliamentary elections. All the local levels have hired volunteers since 4th of November as directed by the Election Commission to conduct voter education programs for 15 days. The volunteers in each wards have been using samples of ballot papers to educate voters. The Commission has also been conducting such campaigns through digital platforms. Voter education campaigns can be found on digital platforms, media, print, online portals, among others. Despite continuous efforts, voters in several areas are still unaware about the voting procedure. 5 to 7% invalid votes have been recorded in 7 parliamentary elections held in the country so far. The scenario has been attributed to ineffective voter education. Grievances of lack of voter education have been reported this time as well. The Election Commission, meanwhile, has claimed that all local levels have been directed to make the voter education campaigns effective. The voters will have to cast their votes in 4 ballot papers for direct and proportionate category of parliamentary and provincial assembly this time around. Therefore, the possibility of higher invalid votes cannot be ruled out. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces regarding agendas raised by the candidates for the upcoming elections. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public Voice.
अहिलेसम्म उम्मेदवारहरु मेरो घरमा पुगेकै छैनन् एजेन्डाको कुरो त उतै जाओस्
बेलौरी भन्सार नाकाको स्तरोन्नतिको लागि कुरा उठाइराछन्
बुढी गण्डकीलाई कोसिस गर्छौं बनाउँछौं भनेर भोट मागिरहनु भएको छ
स्वदेशमै चाहिँ युवाहरूलाई रोजगार प्रदान गर्ने
किसानहरूलाई बिउ मल समयमै वितरण गर्ने
बुढाबुढीलाई भत्ता चाहिँ बढाउँछौं युवाहरूलाई रोजगारी दिन्छौं
जलविद्युतबाट लिएर बाटो घाटोको चाहिँ विकास गर्छु
एक घर एक रोजगारको चाहिँ अवधारणा लिएर आएको चाहिँ देखिन्छ
Calibration flights are set to be operated at the Pokhara Regional International Airport 9 months after the completion of its construction. The flight is set to be operated months after the Chinese company CAMC handed over the project to the authorities after its completion. The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal has set the date and intensified preparations to operate calibration flights from Pokhara Regional Airport as the height of Ritepani Hill, which was considered the main obstruction in the project, is being reduced. The technical equipment installed at the airport will be assessed while the runway is set to be tested. An aircraft of Aero Thai installed with special equipment is scheduled to arrive in Nepal along with a technical team on 25th of November. The aircraft is set to operate regular calibration flights for a week from 30th of November. Meanwhile, the authority has said that reduction of the level of Ritepani Hill has intensified as the hill will be reduced by 14 meters before the operation of the flights begin. Likewise, the Pokhara Metropolis has been working to relocate the landfill site that has obstructed the operation of the airport. The Metropolis has been gearing up to bury the landfill site with the soil extracted while reducing the level of the hill. The authorities' meeting held on 7th of August earlier this year had decided to begin the commercial operation of flights in the airport from the 1st of January next year. Following the operation of the calibration flights, test flights are scheduled to be operated by Nepal Airlines in Pokhara Airport that has been constructed with a loan assistance of around 22 billion rupees from China. Experts in the field opine that the route through Bhairawa will be suitable for aircrafts. At a time when the newly constructed airport has not been granted a single air route, challenge of receiving permit from India to use the said air route persists. Renowned television Kantipur television of the country has been introduced in its new digital form. With its impartial and reliable history of almost 2 decades, Kantipur Television has released its new website, kantipurtv.com, from late last night with a view to expand its services and reach. Editor-in-Chief of Kantipur Television, Dilbhushan Pathak, has informed that all the regular shows, including news, can be watched and read in the same digital platform from today. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question: why has the purchase of paddy delayed despite the government fixing its price? The options are A, indifferent towards farmers, B, nexus of middlemen, and C, snail pace working procedure. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Political parties exhibit dual character while preparing plans and achieving targets. Candidates and leaders deceiving the public with far-fetched agendas ahead of the polls. Government employees assigned to conduct election in rural district reaching voting centers. Efforts to provide voters education yet to be effective. Risk of rise in invalid votes still persists. Ukrainian officials warn the war is not over after Russia's withdrawal from Kherson. Celebrations continue over the weekend. And Pakistan take on England in the ICC 2020 Cricket World Cup final this afternoon. Asian outfit aim to mirror success of 1992 ODI World Cup finals in Melbourne. That's all for the moment. Thank you for staying with us. Bye for now.